So, Photography 101, the absolute basics. ISO, shutter speed and aperture. Then the ISO is like the gain on an amplifier with your music. So if you turn the ISO up, the signal is amplified more. So the problem with it is if you crank the ISO up really high, you get a lot of digital noise, just as if you turn the amplifier up on your sound system at home, eventually the sound quality deteriorates, it goes all crunchy. So I shoot using the native ISO on my camera, which is 800 ISO. Smartphones, it'll do all these settings automatically, unless you have a specialist app to control them, but we can do some hacks to control it. Shutter speed. So close shutter, open shutter, close shutter, open shutter. A slow shutter speed means the shutter is open for longer, lets more light in. A fast shutter speed, it's, for sports or wildlife action, you need a fast shutter speed because the thing's moving. Aperture is the size of the hole through which light comes. So if you're photographing in the dark, you want a big hole for more light to come in. I really like this little chart here, it explains everything very clearly. So here you've got different aperture settings. So f1.4 wide open, f22 closed down, f32 really tiny hole. And what this diagram shows you that with the aperture wide open, you get a depth of field effect. So you'll have one thing in focus and the rest of the frame out of focus, which can be a very nice photographic effect. It also means for astrophotography you're letting more light in, but you'll focus to infinity, you'll focus on the stars. So then the shutter speeds here. So running person, 1/1000th of a second is a very fast shutter speed, and that's what you would use for a sprinter or a flying bird or something like that, or a wave if you want to catch the detail of the water droplets in a wave. Fast shutter speed. Slower shutter speed. So for taking pictures of the stars, you want a slow shutter speed. I usually shoot with about 10 to 14 seconds when I'm taking a picture of the star, which is of the stars. 10 to 14 seconds is a long time. If you go much longer than 30 seconds, you'll start to get a trail as the stars are moving across the sky. Well, the astronomer would say as the Earth is rotating. So if you have the shutter open for like hours, you'll just get big long trails, which can be a very lovely thing. But if you want points of light, about with a wide-ish lens, about sort of 14 seconds, 10 to 14 seconds is good. And then the ISO sensitivity. So here's a low ISO, a nice clear image, and that's at ISO 50. ISO 800 actually on my camera, the one that's filming me now, at ISO 800 is its native ISO, and you don't get much noise there at all. It's where the sensor works best. But as you crank it up, there's ISO 25600, and I do sometimes shoot with that when I have to, but you get a very grainy image, or actually the word is noise, it's digital noise, which can be quite unattractive. You can sometimes use certain software to get rid of it, but if you have a very high ISO, you'll get more of an image when it's dark, but won't be a very good quality image. So I'll share this little chart with you. I think it's ever so helpful for a beginner photographer.